Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. We're here to talk about accounts receivable, collect accounts receivable transactions today. It is 12 noon Eastern time here. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to be together for the next 20 minutes or so. I'm going to wrap up wherever I am pretty promptly at 20 minutes after. We should have plenty of time to get through this topic today. If you've never attended a webinar event before, please click the red arrow on the sidebar of your webinar control panel to minimize that control panel, get it out of the way. If you've got a single monitor, that's really important. If you've got a dual monitor setup, go ahead and just drag the control panel off to your second desktop to get it out of the way. If you have questions, please type those into the questions portion or pane of the webinar control panel. I am pretty good about repeating the questions so everyone knows what's being asked and then answering those questions, or we'll try our best to. If it's a data question or a question that's specific to your data, I may not be able to answer it and have to ask you to contact technical support. So while you're sitting at the computer, so we can get details about your setup and answer that question for you. Again, it's not because I don't want to answer it, it's simply because I can't, okay? We're using the accounts receivable workbook pages 10 through 15 today for our topic. If you have the workbook, you can turn to that page 10, and that's the information I'm using for the basis printed material for today. You can purchase the accounts receivable workbook by going up to our beginning and going to training workbooks and purchase that there. You can download it, print it. You can revisit this video. We're, of course, recording today's event just like we do all of our webinar events. We'll have that back out on our website here probably sometime later today or at the latest sometime tomorrow. So pursuant to yesterday's or the last week's topic is what we're covering today. So right here on our website under our support center, you can see we've got the accounts receivable invoice webinar video out there that we already recorded last week. So if you missed that and you're unfamiliar with recording those invoice transactions, you may want to visit that and then come back and revisit this one for recording those collected transactions, okay? So because today the assumption is when we go into accounting, we've already recorded those invoices. We're now starting to receive monies from our clients that are paying those invoices. And so that's what we're talking about. We're not covering anything regarding invoices today, okay? So basically, as the topic on page 10 begins the discussion of, after customers receive their invoices or clients receive their invoices and make a payment, we can now then make those payments in the Collect Accounts Receivable section. So we find that by clicking under Transactions and then under Accounts Receivable, we go to the second option here labeled Collect Accounts Receivable, okay? So when we open that, it opens the Collect Accounts Receivable screen. And frankly, folks, this window is remarkably similar to our payment, pay bills transaction under Accounts Payable, in that we can choose a single individual client in the upper left. We do have some different, as opposed to quick pay, we have the quick collect option with some various options here. But basically the window is remarkably similar to our accounts payable pay bills screen, okay? So if I have a particular client right here, I can either choose them from the menu, a single client, or I can go to my quick collect here, and I have three options. Collect invoices entered today. So if you entered the invoices today and you want to turn around and record these collected or the collected transaction for those today as well, you can do that. We can also then choose the option labeled View Clients with a Balance. So if we then click on that, it opens up any of our clients, accounts receivable clients that actually have a balance that the system still sees that they owe us, okay? I can just simply put a check mark in the box that I want to, record the collected transaction for and click the Create Collection button, and it'll generate those collected transactions for me. Or the other, probably more popular option is under Quick Collect, the View Outstanding Invoices, okay? So when we click on that, it brings up a list of any of our outstanding accounts receivable, collected, or invoice transactions that are not paid. Okay, so I literally have the ability to come in here and choose which one of these collected transactions I want to record. So we notice here, I want to point out while we're looking at the list here, we actually have two for Allison Jones, one dated August 1st, one dated September 2nd, okay, the first day of the month. Say that's when we're invoicing our accounts receivable clients. So we notice, this is really important, I want everybody to be aware of this, that the account balance is simply the balance of the client account. The amount due to the right is always the amount of the particular invoice transaction. So in this case, Alice's account balance, she owes us for 2 months, is $700, but that's made up of two separate invoices for $350, okay? So just an FYI, account balance and amount due may be different, okay? It's very possible, okay? So in this case, we're going to record some of these collected transactions for these folks. So we're going to record the one for Allison. She's now paying us here for the August balance. She's a little behind. We're going to choose the Becky and Tom, Bill and Robin, and Robert Mondavi, and we're going to click Create Collection, okay? And now notice it adds all four of those particular clients to the unposted collections batch with a check mark in the paid box for each one of the invoices that we're actually posting collected transactions for today, okay? Notice that again under Allison, I'm choosing to pay the one earlier dated invoice as opposed to the more recent one. She'll have to provide a different or later payment for us for the September balance, okay? So again, it's just defaulting to today's date on the date occurred. If I want to change that, I can either change the default date occurred, or I can go down and record, change the collected date for any one of the single invoices. So let's say I actually received Becky and Tom's check a week ago, and that's when I deposited it. I can backdate this to the prior week for that one single line item, okay? A lot of folks are unaware of that. Make sure that my asset account where the money is being deposited is correct. Make sure that my amount to collect is correct. And while I don't think it's required by the software, we would always probably recommend for reporting purposes and accuracy that you choose a payment method. So if I choose check, unlike my accounts payable, where if I chose manual check, it would require that I enter a check number, a computer check that I'm going to be printing a check and assigning one. I don't believe that the check or reference number is required. It's just a payment method that I'm saying I've received from that particular person. However, if you want to record that, you certainly may. So if I go, okay, Allison paid us with check number 1234, I can enter that. But if I'm not mistaken, it's not required. Well, we're going to find out here in a minute, okay? If I have transactions or comments I want to enter, I can certainly enter those comments if I wish. We're going to say, collect for August 2019 balance. And then I could certainly copy and paste those, or copy and paste the comments and paste them from one to the other, okay? If for some reason, now this is something that isn't really covered by the material today in terms of that, but I want to make sure you're aware of it, is what if a particular client can only pay a portion of a particular invoice amount? Some decisions have to be made in terms of how that happens, okay? Let's say Allison's struggling even now, okay? She's having a problem paying her balance for our preschool, and so, again, we're trying to do the best we can to help her. I can also uncheck the $350 invoice and just enter the amount here that she's actually paying me today. So how that can help me is, next time I come in, the invoice is still outstanding, but my account balance is different, okay? So it will still show a $350 outstanding invoice for August, but with an amount due on that of, or the account balance of, that's $200 less. So instead of being $700, it would be only $500, okay? Again, you have to decide. I could mark the invoice as paid, and then only the account balance tells me that she still owes me that money. But it's really up to you in terms of how you let the data tell you where your client balances and client payments or collected transactions stand, okay? So the software is really flexible in terms of, I could go in and I could correct the original invoice to 200 and post an entirely separate invoice for the remaining 150 for August. It's really entirely up to me, or you, as the case may be, in terms of how you want to see that, okay? If you're wanting to save the batch but not post it, we would of course recommend clicking the Save Batch button. Make sure that you get the Batch was saved successfully dialog box, okay? Then if I were to, Church Windows were to crash on me or close, or if I was going to, go into lunch and I wanted to come back and record those collected transactions later, I can do that. I could close all the way out of the software and it will bring me right back to this same place when I reopen Church Windows and go back into a Collect Accounts Receivable, okay? If I go, oh, I didn't mean to record, or I'm not meaning to pay or record the collected transaction for Beck and Tommy Adams, you can highlight that and click the Remove Selected Client, okay? It'll say, are you sure you want to remove this collect from at this time? And I can say yes, and it'll remove it from my batch, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and pay that. Nope, I want to record the collected transaction. The print button down here is a print of the transactions that you're about ready to post. However, as I remind folks of, this is a report that does not include the transaction numbers. The transaction numbers are not generated in the software until I actually click post, okay? At which point then I'll also receive another prompt to print, but I'm a big fan of printing the report after posting report because I want those transaction numbers. It's a record of what I did and the transaction numbers that were created. As a technician that supports you, if you call me and say, hey, Josh, I've got this report of these transactions receivable transactions that I posted, first thing I'm going to ask is it showing the transaction numbers? If you print the pre-posting report, I have nothing to go on, okay? So while you can print the one pre-posting, the one that you get after posting may choose to be more helpful and more useful for your audit records, okay? So I'm not going to print that, but you can, okay? I'm a big fan of doing the show running balance too, because it does allow us to see the balance of each one of what the effect of the transactions is on the accounts, both their client accounts and my checking account, okay? So we notice there that the adjusted balance for Allison Jones will be $500 when all is said and done, okay? Then when I'm ready, I'm going to go ahead and click Post. So it's asking me now, do I want to print the report? If I click yes on this, it will include the transaction numbers 87 through 90 that were not generated before. Why I'm a fan of this posting, not the other one. Okay, so we're not going to print that. All right, so we've got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to have to kind of rush through this print statements section here. I think we'll be able to get through it. So now, I've recorded my collected transactions for these folks, and I'm now ready to print their statements. I would go back up to Accounts Receivable, and we'll choose Print Statements, okay? Takes a few seconds here. Sorry, folks. Bear with us here. Come on. So here they are. Here are all the folks that it's wanting to be able to generate transaction date range. So it's going to be doing it. It's automatically looking at January through December, say 2019. If you want to include the whole year, you certainly may. But if, say, we only wanted to include, say, third quarter, we could certainly do, July 1st through September 30th if we wish. It's entirely up to you. If you've got a lot of accounts receivable transactions, it may be better for you to do them in small chunks like this, okay? So we notice here that some of them have a balance and some don't, okay? Well, because I dated those in October, it still sees the balances owed, okay? We're going to actually expand that date range. Click Apply Dates. Yeah, notice that the account balance changed on some of those because we posted the receivable collected transactions in October, not in September. You have the ability to choose some options here. You can choose, statement date of 10/8. You can make that any statement date you wish. You can choose the church organization if you wish. or you can create your own or add it. If say the preschool or daycare has different organization information than the church, you can just click the plus sign and add additional or a second organization information, with name and address and what have you, tax ID. We can enter a global memo, thank you for trusting us to care for your children. And that will appear on the global memo of everyone's statement. I can enter an individual statement memo if I wish. So, if I want to enter something specifically for Allison Jones, I can certainly do that, okay? I can enter something customized to their statement and no one else's. I can go to check only clients with a balance if I wish. So if right here I only want to produce them for Sally and Allison, if I check that box, it will only print those that I want to print statements for, those that actually still have a balance that's owed us. Okay? You can do select all statements, unselect all statements if you wish, and then, but if not, we can just go ahead and do the, check all, and it'll check every one of them. And now we build in a simple statement, but if you do want to customize your donations or your collected transaction statement, you can certainly do that using the statement designer. We're not going to get into that today, but you can certainly use the statement designer to customize that receivable collected statement if you wish. But when you're ready, we simply click print, and it will then bring up print the invoices or the statements for all of our clients with the invoice and payment transactions that fall within the actual statement period. So right here we see Allison Jones shows her invoice, 2 invoices for August and September with a payment that we received in October and what her still remaining balance is, okay? Thank you for, there's your global memo. Thank you for trusting us to care for your children. And then, further down the list, we've got our invoice and payments, and when the balance is 0, there's no money that's owed to us. Folks, you can add in a logo into this. You can customize these layouts. You can do anything you want with it, pretty much. Okay? But then I would simply click it, print it to my, send it to my printer, and then I would send those off to my receivable clients. Okay? Let me see here. Invoice dates. Oh, you can do a select a client to individual client if you wish. Okay, using the select client list on the left, on the right-hand side. All right, that is our topic for today.